this week as I was doing some long-term sermon planning, I found that I had 1 week that wasn't filled. It didn't have a sermon to go with it. So I was trying to figure out where I wanted to put this Sunday in the next few months, and I came across our passage in Ezekiel. It just seemed to jump off the page at me, and I knew that this was what I needed to fill this day that was not full, and that today was going to be the perfect Sunday for it to fit. As I read about the rattling of the bones as they came back together, I thought to myself, I've heard the rattling of bones the last couple of weeks. This is definitely the right scripture for us and is perfect for today. Would you please pray with me? May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts and minds be acceptable to you, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen.
Amen.
The last couple of months and weeks really have had some frustrating moments for me. Between broken air conditioners and open leadership positions, reports up to my ears, hoops to jump through so that I can continue to serve, and so on, I've been left with a few frustrations. But last Sunday, some of these frustrations began to turn more towards joy, as I heard our bones around here and Grinter Chapel begin to rattle a bit. In our reading in Ezekiel, God shows Ezekiel the valley of the dry bones. Bones. Lifeless, dry bones. God asks the question, can these bones live? Now I can imagine Ezekiel kind of looking around and thinking to himself, these bones live? They're dead. They're just bones. There's no life left in them. But of course, how can he say that to the Almighty? So, in diplomatic fashion, he says, you know. So God tells Ezekiel what to say to the bones, and as he's saying it, he begins to hear a rattling sound. Now again, I can just imagine him looking sideways at God as he speaks to the bones, thinking, are you hearing and seeing this? Well, I felt a little like this myself the last week. My Sunday last week started with someone letting me know that they needed to step down as chair of a committee. My heart sank when I received the message. I've had one position open for several months at the other church, and now I have a second open here. What are we going to do, I thought. I was feeling quite frustrated as I arrived at church, worrying about who would step up to fill these positions, and then also thinking, how in the world am I going to get all these reports done on time? How am I even going to know how to fill them out? Even though I filled them out last year, I just don't have confidence that I know how to do it again. But slowly, throughout the day, I began to hear the sound of rattling. It was so amazing, and I found myself looking sideways at God, just as I imagined Ezekiel doing, thinking, are you seeing this? Is it real? See, I had people suddenly stepping up to fill positions. People were taking forms to handle them for me. People were sharing how their heart was changing, and they were seeing things a bit differently, and they felt we needed to do something different so that we can make a difference. Things have been pretty quiet around here and Grinter Chapel. Dinners have been canceled, attendance has been a little off, and sometimes I felt like we were becoming a sea of dry bones ourselves. Sometimes I think we get tired and we can't imagine how we can get anything done. What difference does it make anyway, right? Well, I don't think that's the right answer, though I've certainly been there myself, trust me. Our reading in Romans reminds us that when we set our minds on the flesh, on ourselves, on what we can do, well, that's death. But when we focus on the Spirit and on what God can do through the Spirit moving among us, Well, that's life. Maybe we aren't able to do everything we did before. Maybe we aren't able to have the big events anymore that used to bring in lots of money, but that's okay. Maybe that's not necessarily what we're supposed to do, or at least not by ourselves anyway. Maybe we need to do it together. Maybe we need to put our little bit with that of the bigger church, of the district, the conference, and so on, so that we can make a bigger difference in the world. I think that's what's so great about the United Methodist Church. We're a connectional church. We're all connected, so that when we all come together, we can do more for even more people. Think about it. When one person tries to lift a really heavy box, you feel burdened. But when a friend comes over to help, your burden's lighter. It's much easier. Or sometimes we see in the news that two people try to lift a car and it's impossible. But when a crowd comes together and works together, suddenly it becomes possible. That's what's great about the connectional church. And you know what else? That's what's great about a charge. A charge being more than one congregation that comes together. See, sometimes a church is little. It's so small that it can't really exist very well on its own. So the conference will combine it with another church, sometimes with several churches, into one charge, and it shares a pastor, so that then they can continue to exist. And that's what we do here at Edwardsville and at Grinter Chapel. The thing is, though, we still tend to stay relatively separate. But I wonder, how much more could we do if we combined our efforts more often? If we came out of our respective tombs, if you will, and worked together. We've done it already with the flood buckets. Combining together, we were able to do more, and that's great. But maybe we could do it for more than just the flood buckets. Maybe we could help each other out by helping with each other's dinners, either by supporting the other with our attendance, or maybe even by helping them with serving or even the preparing. This may be crazy talk. I don't know, but I do think it's something we should think about. I was really happy to see the few people from Grinter who came to support us on Friday at the bake sale. That just touched my heart to see us trying to do more together to support one another. Last week, someone said that they thought we were protecting our church. This was said at Grinter, but they thought that we were protecting our church by protecting the money. But they've come to realize that by letting some of it go, it could do more good in the world. It was so powerful when they said this, and I had goosebumps. My hair was tingling and standing on end. It's been with me all week, and it's what's led to this sermon. I feel like this person heard Jesus calling them out of the tomb, just like he did Lazarus, and just like I think he's doing for all of us as a church through what this person said. We don't have to do it alone. And I don't think we're supposed to. We have each other here in this congregation. We have each other in this charge. We have each other in the district and in the conference, in our denomination. We have each other as believers, and most importantly, we have God, who's with us every step of the way, leading and guiding us, supporting us and loving us. Christ, right this very minute, is calling us out of our tomb. He's calling us back to life. Will we listen? Will we answer his call and trust that God will be with us, strengthening us every step of the way? We can't do it by our power alone. We're tired and we're too few, right? But not when we come together. not when we put ourselves in His hands, not when we allow Him to hold us up and strengthen us. In my John Wesley Study Bible, it says that this passage from Ezekiel signals a new beginning of sorts. It suggests that if the bones could ever live again, it would be through the power of God. It says that God intends this call to be an answer to the despair that the exiles were feeling at that time. They were feeling as if they were dead and buried, but God breathes life back into them. And last week, I heard the rumbling of our dry bones. I felt the Spirit moving among us, and I heard Jesus calling us out of the tomb of our own church building, inviting us to be in ministry out in the world, not alone, but in connection with Him and with each other.